Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk disinformation about Ukraine and set the record straight. I'm Fulbright Clinton Fellow Nina Jankowicz with this week's edition of Russian Disinformation Dissected. Among the fakes we examine this week, Catalonia to recognize Crimea as part of Russia, Ukraine's Poltava region demands federalization from Kyiv, food riots begin in Ukraine, and what did the Russian Duma elections show in annexed Crimea? So, let's get to the details. On September 28th, scores of Russian media and their English and Spanish language equivalents reported that Catalonia was planning to recognize annexed Crimea as part of Russia. Russian daily Izvestia, the source for this story, in turn cited José Enrique Folk, a representative of the Catalonian Solidarity for Independence Party, who reassured Izvestia that Catalonia intended to support the Russian annexation of Crimea. What none of these publications mention is that the Catalonian Solidarity for Independence Party is not even in the Catalonian parliament and therefore does not represent any official Catalonian position. At the end of September, Folk attended a global separatist conference held in Moscow. The central region of Poltava is the latest province to demand federalization from Kyiv, announced RT, claiming that regional MPs asked Ukraine's president and prime minister for an agreement dividing powers between the central government and the region. RT refers to a regional council meeting held in June, during which council members voted to send a letter to the Ukrainian government asking that a contract delineating powers between central and regional authorities be drawn up as soon as possible. The word federalization does not appear anywhere in this document and did not figure into the Council's discussion, as a video of the proceedings shows. In an official statement published on the Poltava Region Council's website, Council Chairman Alexander Bilenki called RT's claims manipulative, false, and an outright lie. Ukraine is reviewing its political structures, aiming to decentralize and devolve powers to the regions. While most political parties and the general public support this process, the majority is decidedly against federalization. Federalization in Ukraine is a favorite topic of the Russian media. Moscow insists that Kyiv give the regions autonomy, something that Russia refuses to do at home, despite being a federation. Last month, scores of Russian and pro-Russian media claimed that food riots had begun in Ukraine, with hungry people taking over a supermarket just to get something to eat. In Chornomorsk, outside Odessa, a group of unknown people occupied a supermarket. According to reports, the raiders were not interested in the store's cash and were only focused on getting food. According to the Odessa site Ukrainska Sluzhba Informatsiy, the incident was the result of a disagreement between two businessmen over the supermarket space. According to the Odessa police, the old owner of the supermarket and the new one couldn't agree on removing the old inventory from the store premises. The hullabaloo was not about hungry people breaking into a supermarket to eat, as Russian media claimed, but simply a personal conflict between the old and new owner of the supermarket. Our last story concerns Russian elections. The September 18th Russian Duma elections were a practical no-show in Crimea, as scores of countries and international organizations condemned holding the ballot in the annexed peninsula. The United States called the Russian elections a travesty, while the Financial Times newspaper pointed out that the euphoria of 2014 has given way to apathy, resignation, and a lack of enthusiasm resulting from high prices, frequent electricity blackouts, and international sanctions, leaving Crimea completely dependent on Moscow. The Wall Street Journal pointed out that voter turnout for these elections was the lowest in Russia since the country became independent 25 years ago, while Ukrainian journalist and blogger Vitaly Portnikov asserted that by refusing to vote in these elections, Crimea residents showed the peninsula remains Ukrainian. In an attempt to trump up support from the poll, Crimean voters were promised smartphones if they voted, while many of those who refused to vote were visited by the authorities and harassed on the telephone. International election observers refused to work in Crimea, and U.S. OSCE Ambassador Daniel Baer reiterated that according to international law, Crimea is a part of Ukraine, and no country will recognize the elections taking place there. Meanwhile, Crimean Prosecutor General Natalia Poklonskaya said the international boycott was just motivated by jealousy. They don't want to see a prosperous region. They don't want to see that we are happy, that we love and are proud of our homeland, Russia, she said. Russian journalist and blogger Alexander Sitnik wrote that such a low election turnout shattered the myth that 86% of the Russian population supports President Vladimir Putin. That's it for this week. You can find much more dissected disinformation on the StopFake website. Be vigilant, look out for fakes, and if you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, send it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Nina Jankowicz, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.